Hello, Drunvalo.
Hello, Lilu.
Well, good to have you today. You wrote many books, and you're an international speaker. Your latest book, I think, is Serpent of Light. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you're a person that speaks a lot about the sacred space of the heart and living in the heart. Can you tell us why it is so important to learn how to live from this space right now in this moment in time?
Well, there's a lot of reasons why. It's not just kind of one reason, but let me think. Probably the most important reason is because if you believe all the prophecies that are going on all around the world, not just the Mayans, but everywhere, uh, we're about to move into another level of existence. And in order to do that, the only way you can do that in a smooth, harmonic way that is known or ever understood, at least in ancient times, was by being centered in the heart and not in the brain. And today, almost everybody on Earth is centered in their brain. And it is a real problem. As you can see, the world is dying because of it, because we don't have any heart and we don't care about anybody else. But it's much more than that. I mean, the heart contains the place where everything that we see in our reality, all the stars, the planets, and everything else like that, there is a place in there where all those things were created. And it is the same place in everybody's heart. It's exactly the same. There's only one of these places, and it's the same everywhere. And if we remember this, and if we remember how to live in this space and not focus everything from our brain, uh, we will make this transition very easily. It won't. It will not be a problem for anybody that's living in that way. For someone who's living in their brain and all they can think about is how much money they have and possessions and all the material world, that kind of consciousness is in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so this has been your main focus of your work?
Well, it wasn't originally because I didn't know about this. I originally was studying the material world and a lot of other things of how it came into being in terms of structurally through sacred geometry and how the relationships were. I spent 14 years just sitting around studying that. And I finally got to the place where I realized that absolutely everything in existence came into existence and is in existence now because of sacred geometry and of these relationships. And that was important to understand. And so those first two books were just the beginning. And then later I began to understand the female side of it, which was really hard for me. I mean, being male, female is really different. It is not just our bodies are different and we kind of look a little different, but inside we're different.
Yeah.
And then even deeper on how we come from source and how we come out from source and relate to the outer world on those levels. Female is very different than male.
Yeah.
And it's taken me many years to begin to understand that. And be able to actually do it and live it. It's not easy.
So did you had to overcome some challenges to uh, learn and realize this and now bring the teachings that you're bringing to the world?
Oh, I had to overcome a lot of things. My very nature I had to overcome to understand in order to step into this world. My wife is the one that actually she helped me and led me into this world, and it was her understanding. She's been studying a similar pathway, but it's been on Earth for a long time. It's about 6,000 years or so, and that pathway, which is called the Blue School in the United States, also the School of Images. It goes back to anyway, a long time ago. And that pathway is one where they see that everything in existence is just images. There is no actual things. Nothing really exists. It's only the images that are created that we can perceive.
Yeah.
And I know this is different than how we think now, but it isn't different than if you go back into the Vedas and say in India or Tibet. And there they say the same thing, that the external world is not actually there. It's an illusion. and even science today can't really prove that we're on a planet or that we have bodies or that there is anything. All we know is that there's electrical impulses in our brain moving across synapses, and that we image something, but is it really there? They don't know. And in the ancient world, it's not. And that is a really different way of perceiving the reality than we do now.
So because we're living in the heart, then we perceive this other reality that we're actually not seeing with our eyes?
Well, a long time ago, we used to live, we were focused, our spirit was focused inside of our heart. And the brain was remotely controlled from the heart. And so it had control over it. And so whatever images that it would create out into the outer world, whatever it would do it through a very definite series of interconnections within the brain and within the heart. These things are very well known even through science at this point. But we lost that, and we really lost it. And so I really don't know how to proceed in something like this, because unfortunately, almost all the world has no basis, nothing to attach to or to know in order to know what I'm talking about. The only way you can really do this is to do it. There really isn't any other way. You can't use words, or you can describe it and talk about it, but it doesn't really mean much. The actual experience of moving into the heart is amazing. It's something beyond anything that we are normally aware of. And when you do, a whole other world opens up, a world that is similar to this one, but really, really different. The stars and all the planets and everything that we see outside, that when we stand on the earth, we look off the surface of the earth. You could go inside, you can put duct tape over your eyes, which it actually makes it easier, and you can go inside of your heart, and you will find a place, everyone does, where you step outside in a dream world out there, and there are the stars, and they're exactly the same. And if there's a comet going by, it'll be going by inside of your heart also. You're actually looking at the world in the universe, but not with your brain eyes, but with your single heart eye. And there was a book written about this 5,000 years ago called the Upanishad. 108 people that went into their heart a long time ago. They're just people like you and me, but they wrote about it. The book's become famous now. But it describes this, and in every single one of these things, the people always talk about how, wow, the stars are inside of our heart. Where did they come from? It's the beginning of a new way of perceiving life, but it's not really new. It's really very, very old.
So, are you a bit sad by what's happening and how the world is functioning, or do you actually always find a space to be in the heart and accept what's going on with compassion and understanding?
No, I don't see. Really, from my point of view, there is nothing wrong. Everything is whole, complete, and perfect just as it is. We are moving through a transition. And whenever you move through a transition, you go through chaos. It's just part of it's science, actually. You can't go from one pattern to another pattern without breaking down the old pattern to get to the other pattern. And so what's occurring here is fine. There's no real problem with it. We will step to the other side, and once we do, the transition will be a lot easier for everybody involved.
Mm-hmm. But is there something over our heart that is not allowing us to open it further? I mean, or some things that we have inherited from previous life or this lifetime that would not enable us to open it, or be even afraid of this beautiful sacred power?
Well, it goes back to Atlantis, and about 13,000 years ago, a little less than that. And something happened on there. We know pretty well what it is, but it doesn't really matter at this point. And it caused us to fall in conscious, to drop a long ways down to where we are now. And it's just a different world now than it was then. I mean, we can't to go back into those worlds is will not really help us to understand our situation. On the other hand, on the other time, the other way, it is our source of what happened to us. I don't think I answered your question, so give it to me again.
Is there what is really holding us back from either previous lives or this lifetime from opening our heart fully? What are we afraid of, or what are the barriers? What is
Okay.
holding us back,
Well,
unconsciously and consciously?
well, when we fell the last time, we moved out of our hearts into our brains, and we then severed the connection. We don't have the connection between our hearts anymore. Our emotional body that we feel now, which we think is from our heart, is not. It's from our right brain. We have two emotional bodies. We have one that comes from our right brain, and all of our emotions are polarized because the 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 brain itself is polarized, and so we have this feeling that uh, that we're feeling from our heart, but we're really not. If you've ever had the experience of going into your heart, you know that that's what you're doing is almost like a synthetic world. It's an emotional body that is not normal. The true emotional body is in your heart, and it's not polarized. And so, if we feel love here, we're really loving someone from our brain, not from our heart. And it's really obvious. If we could be so much in love with somebody and we could be talking away, and then our lover says to us something that we don't like, and we get mad at them instantly, just like that. But if we were in our hearts, it wouldn't matter what they said to us or even what they did to us. We would unconditionally love them no matter what. But hardly anyone has ever felt this place because we've been severed from it. It does happen, rarely, and usually one of those times is when a woman just has a baby, the baby just came out, and it's at her breast and sucking, and she looks down, and she loves that baby from her heart, not from her brain. She would die for that baby right then. And it's so, but we don't know this. I mean, most of the world has no idea that we have two emotional bodies. And so there is another world awaiting. I mean, it really is. It's just a completely different way of perceiving the world, and that's
Yeah.
where I'm studying, I'm learning, and it's a lifetime project.
Can you tell us about the Merkaba?
Yeah, the